He was whispering to our daughter, brushing her hair back as she giggled. I saw him lean down and kiss her on the forehead, soft and gentle, like he always did. At the same time, my phone buzzed. Room 414. Doors open. I was already halfway dressed underneath my coat. He tucked them in. I was in another man's bed before their nightlight even clicked off. The first kiss was not innocent. My fingers dug into his shoulders, my breath caught in my throat, my wedding ring pressing into the side of his neck as he pulled me into him. And I let him. Not once thinking about the man putting dinosaurs on our son's pillow. If you are watching this right now, thank you for being here. I want to take a moment to appreciate all of you who have subscribed to the channel. You are the heartbeat behind these stories. And to all the new and returning viewers who have not subscribed yet, I see you, and I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that keeps this channel going. Please drop your thoughts in the comments after this chapter. I want to hear every reaction. Let us dive into the truth. My name is Lauren. I am a 36-year-old mother of two from Charlotte, North Carolina. Suburbs, SUVs, soccer Saturdays, casseroles in the freezer, and everything that looked like stability on the outside. My husband's name is Daniel. He is kind. Soft-spoken. He makes pancakes every Sunday and calls our daughter, Peanut, like it is her legal name. He is not exciting, but he is consistent, and in ways I never admitted to anyone, that scared me more than it comforted me. The other man? His name is Micah. And he was everything Daniel was not. Rough around the edges. Dark, sarcastic eyes. The kind of man who looked at you like he had already undressed you with his mind, and then had the confidence to do it for real. I met Micah at the gym I joined after our second child. I told Daniel I needed me time and to get back in shape. What I really needed was to feel wanted again. Micah was a trainer. He was the first man in 5 years to look me up and down like I was not just a mother. He asked personal questions with an edge. Are you happy? What does your husband not do that I could? I laughed them off at first. That was my mistake. It started as conversations. Then it turned into texts. Then texts became phone calls at midnight while Daniel slept beside me. I told myself it was nothing. I was just talking. I was just flirting. But the truth is, I already knew I was walking towards something I could never walk back from. It was a Thursday. Daniel was working late. I cooked dinner, gave the kids their baths, read bedtime stories, and tucked them in like every other night. I kissed Daniel on the cheek when he came in around 9:30 and told him I was going to meet a friend for drinks, a girl from the gym, I said. He smiled. Said, have fun. You deserve it. I smiled back. Lied to his face. Walked out the door. And drove 30 minutes to a hotel on the edge of the city. Room 414. Micah opened the door in a towel, still damp from the shower. His eyes were already burning through me. I told myself this was just to see how it felt. One time. Just to feel something again. The moment his lips met mine, every excuse I ever made drowned in heat and lust. I felt alive, yes. I felt guilty, yes. But I felt powerful. And that power turned into something far darker. I got home around 1:15 a.m. The house was quiet. I crept past the kids' room and saw the dim glow of their nightlight. Daniel had left the door cracked the way our daughter liked it. On the kitchen counter was a note, there is leftover lasagna in the fridge. I hope you had fun. Love you. My knees buckled. I stared at it. I picked it up. I kissed it. Then I threw up in the downstairs bathroom and cried until I could not breathe. But 2 days later, I saw Micah again. And the cycle started all over. That same week, Daniel suggested we plan a weekend getaway. Just us, he said. We have not done that in forever. I nodded, smiled, agreed, even while texting Micah under the table. But someone else saw me that day at the gym. Someone I never expected. A neighbor. A friend of Daniel's sister. And she watched me for more than just one moment. She watched everything. There is something sick about how easy it became. How quickly I adjusted to splitting my soul in half, one part mother and wife, the other part something darker, something secret and addicted. I wore both faces like different outfits. And I wore them well. Micah and I started meeting twice a week. Hotels, empty apartments, even the back seat of his car once when we could not wait. I used the gym as my cover. Told Daniel I was spending extra time training. He believed me. Of course he did. He always believed me. At home, I made more effort to overcompensate. I baked cookies with the kids. I started wearing new lingerie. Ironically, for Daniel, because guilt made me generous. He thought I was reigniting our marriage. He called me glowing. Said he felt like we were getting closer again. I smiled and nodded while his words stabbed me through the chest. But I was already drifting further and further away from him, into the arms of a man who wanted only pieces of me, not the whole. And somehow, that felt easier than being loved entirely. With Micah, it was raw and uninhibited. He pulled things out of me I forgot I even had. I would lie to Daniel about needing to go to Target, then end up naked on Micah's couch, my phone still buzzing in my purse while he whispered things into my ear that Daniel never would. He knew I was married. He did not care. That was part of the thrill for him, and for me too, if I am being honest. He called it our little game. And I played along, willingly. Every lie I told at home made the next lie easier. I was becoming someone I no longer recognized, but still craved to be. He once said, "He does not know what he has, Lauren. But I do." And I let those words brand themselves into my mind like some. I stood frozen in my doorway, barefoot, wearing nothing but a tank top and leggings smeared with flour from the cookies I had burned 20 minutes earlier. I had not showered. I had barely slept. And yet, there Micah stood, one arm pressed against the doorframe, the other holding a bottle of something brown and toxic. His eyes were bloodshot. His shirt was wrinkled. His mouth curled into something between a smirk and a threat. "I figured if your husband's gone, you might be lonely," he said. I glanced down the street. It was just after sunset, and the neighborhood was quiet. Suburban quiet. Sprinklers ticking in the distance. Porch lights glowing like halos on homes that did not deserve the kind of secrets I had carried. "You should not be here," I said. Micah stepped closer. "You stopped answering me. Because you were becoming something I did not sign up for," I whispered. His expression twisted. "You did not sign up? Are you serious, Lauren? You showed up. You kept coming back. You told me I made you feel alive. And now what? You are done with me just because your husband grew a pair and finally looked through your phone?" My stomach clenched. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. I backed up instinctively. He closed the door behind him with one deliberate push, and it clicked shut like a trap. Micah walked through the living room like he owned it. Like he belonged there. Like the mess he helped create had earned him a seat at the table. He pointed to a framed photo on the shelf, Daniel, the kids, and me at the beach last summer. I remembered how happy I had looked that day. But I could not remember if it had been real. "That your daughter?" he asked. "She looks like you." "Do not talk about my children," I snapped. He turned to me, his jaw tense. "Oh, now you want to be a wife and mother again?" "I made a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. He laughed bitterly. "No. You made a choice." Over and over again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shove him out the door and erase every memory of him that clung to my skin like smoke. But instead, I whispered, "Please leave." Micah stood still for a moment. Then he tossed the bottle on the couch and muttered, "You are just like the rest of them. You want danger, but only in doses. You want to be worshipped, but only when it does not cost you anything. You used me. I looked him in the eyes. Yes, I did. He flinched like I had slapped him. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out. I locked the door the moment it shut. I slid down to the floor, my chest heaving, my heart pounding against my ribs like a prisoner trying to escape. The affair was over. But the damage? That was just getting started. That night, I walked through the house like a ghost. Toys on the floor. A pair of socks under the coffee table. Crumbs on the kitchen island. My daughter's sweater still hanging on the back of a chair. It was not the silence that killed me. It was the absence. No Daniel reading bedtime stories. No tiny voices yelling, "Mommy," from the hallway. Just me, and the echo of everything I had broken. I went into the kids' rooms and stood in the doorways like a stranger. I touched their pillows. Smelled their blankets. My son had left a plastic dinosaur on his nightstand, the same one Daniel tucked in beside him every night. I collapsed onto the floor and wept until I was soaked in shame. The kind of crying that is not loud, just sharp and deep and shaking. My body could not hold the weight anymore. The next afternoon, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I stared at his name for almost a minute before I answered. His voice was calm. Steady. He asked if I had eaten. I told him no. Then he said, "I am coming by tomorrow morning. I want to talk." My throat closed. I managed a quiet, "Okay." I wanted to ask if the kids were okay. If they missed me. If he still loved me. But I said nothing. Because I no longer knew what I deserved to hear. That night, I stayed up late writing a letter to Daniel. I did not know if I would read it aloud or hand it to him, or tear it up before he got there. But I needed to say the things I had never said out loud. I confessed everything. Not just the affair, but the emptiness I had been hiding. The resentment I buried beneath smiles. The shame I carried from feeling invisible. The choices I made to feel seen, and how I traded integrity for attention. I told him I never stopped loving him. But I had stopped loving myself. And that was where the betrayal really began. I folded the letter and put it in the drawer beside our bed. Then I laid down in the middle of our mattress, alone, and waited for morning. When I woke up, it was raining. A soft, steady drizzle that made the world feel slow and reflective. I made coffee. Put on a clean shirt. Brushed my hair. Wiped mascara from the corners of my eyes. And then I heard his car pull into the driveway. My heart stopped. I stood by the window, watching him get out. He looked tired. Older, somehow. But still. Daniel. Still the man who made pancakes. Still the man I shattered. As he walked toward the door, I knew this was it. No more hiding. No more pretending. Just the truth. And whatever came next. The house smelled like rain and regret. Daniel stood just inside the front door, his shoulders stiff, his lips tight, his hands empty. But his eyes were filled with a kind of broken that words could never touch. I had never seen him like that before. Not even when his father passed. Not even when we lost our first pregnancy. That man had known sadness. But this was betrayal. And I had given it to him with my own 2 hands. He looked around our living room like it was unfamiliar territory, like every memory now had a different meaning. I motioned to the couch. He ignored it. "I will stand," he said quietly. So I sat. On the edge. Clutching my fingers like they were a shield against the truth. "I need you to tell me the rest," he said. "All of it. No more hiding. No more cleaning it up to make it easier for me to hear. Just give me the truth, Lauren." And I did. I told him the names of the hotels. The nights I came home and kissed him with another man's taste still on my mouth. I told him how many times. I told him how I felt. How I stopped caring about what was right. How Micah made me feel alive in a way that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with destruction. I told him everything. Because I had nothing left to lose except his respect, and maybe, if I was lucky, his mercy. He listened. No interruptions. No yelling. Just the slow unraveling of his faith in me, thread by thread. And when I finished, silence. I used to think that the worst thing that could ever happen in a marriage was death, Daniel finally said. But now I know better. Death is final. It is peaceful. It is clean. What you did, it is slow. It is rotting. It lingers in every room, in every corner of this house. I sobbed into my hands. I could not look at him. I was ashamed of how I had made a man like him feel disposable. I do not know if I can stay, he said. I nodded. I will not blame you if you go. I do not know if I want a divorce, he added. But I cannot just pretend this did not happen. I need space. I need time. And the kids? I asked. They do not know, he said. And they will not. Not from me. A silence stretched between us like a canyon. I need to leave now, he said. Okay. He turned to go but stopped at the door. Lauren, did you ever love me? At all? That question gutted me. Yes, I whispered. Even when I forgot how to show it. He left. And the house, for the first time in years, felt unfamiliar. The sound of the heater kicking on made me flinch. The sound of silence? That became my punishment. I stayed in bed for 2 days. I barely ate. I watched videos of the kids on my phone just to remember what laughter sounded like. I wrote. A lot. Mostly letters I never sent. Pages of apologies that felt hollow the moment I wrote them. And then on the 3rd day, I got a text. From Daniel. It said, meet me at counseling. Tuesday at 4. I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes. And then I cried harder than I ever had, not out of pain, but out of something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. Therapy was ugly. I sat in a chair across from Daniel and watched him flinch at every memory he forced himself to relive. I listened to the therapist ask questions that made my skin crawl. I answered honestly, even when it made me look like a monster. Daniel had one rule, total transparency. If I was late, he asked where I was. If I smiled at a message, he asked who it was. I gave up all my passwords. I deleted social media. I turned my phone over willingly. Because you cannot heal something while still hiding behind locked doors. We went every week. Sometimes twice. There were days we made progress and days he could not look me in the eye. Days I felt hopeful and days I cried in the car after every session. But we kept going. And that mattered. One afternoon, our daughter asked, why does Daddy live with Grandma now? I sat on the edge of her bed, trying not to cry. He needed a break, I told her. Sometimes grown-ups get hurt, and they need time to feel better. She nodded like she understood. Then she asked, is it because of something you did? And in that moment, I knew. The damage had reached further than I thought. Even into her little world. I hugged her. I kissed her forehead. And I told myself, you do not just owe Daniel healing. You owe it to her too. 3 months later, Daniel asked me to dinner. We met at a small Italian place downtown, where we had gone the night he proposed. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the booth, a menu untouched in front of him. I sat down, heart pounding. He looked at me long and hard. I have thought about what kind of man I want to be, he said. What kind of father? What kind of husband? I have asked myself if forgiveness makes me weak. He paused. But the truth is, it makes me stronger. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his wedding band. I am not putting this back on today. But I want you to know. I want to try again. Slowly. Honestly. Carefully. Because if we are going to rise from this, I need to know that it will not be built on guilt, but on truth. I nodded, tears rolling down my face. I will earn it, I said. Every single day. It has been a year now. We are still in therapy. We still sleep in separate rooms some nights. He still has moments where he recoils from my touch. But we also laugh again. We dance in the kitchen sometimes. We went on a weekend trip just last month, and held hands like teenagers on the boardwalk. Forgiveness does not wipe the slate clean. But it gives you permission to write a new chapter. And for the first time in a long time, I believe in our story again. Not because it is perfect. But because we survived what should have ended us. He tucked in our kids, while I was in another man's bed. And somehow, through the grace I did not deserve, he chose to tuck me back into his heart. Slowly. Carefully. And this time, I will not leave.